We've been sold a calculated structural lie. For decades, the establishment has convinced millions of patriots that the fight for America's future only happens right here, inside the borders of Washington, D.C. The America First movement and the Trump doctrine have secured strategic victories at the executive level, realigning the highest office in the land to focus on national sovereignty and border security. But while voters spend years waiting for the next federal election cycle, a sprawling administrative state continues to chip away at our natural rights. Out of the national spotlight, distant bureaucracies enforce heavy-handed regulations, and activist ideologies quietly rewrite the curriculum in our hometown schools. Even aggressive executive efforts to slash this bureaucracy, like the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, an initiative tasked with cutting federal waste, face inherent limits. Because no matter how sharply leaders cut spending, these are still top-down federal solutions operating within the very system they are trying to fix. Relying on a centralized federal government to solve the problems created by centralization does not secure freedom. It secures a permanent culture of dependency, where citizens wait for Washington to grant them permission to live their lives. To realize the Trump doctrine, we must redirect our efforts, moving power away from the national government and anchoring it back into our local communities. This localized approach is called Maga 2.0. It is a movement built directly on Thomas Jefferson's original blueprint for America: strict state sovereignty, individual liberty, and robust community self-governance. This strategy has a proven track record. Throughout American history, organizing at the grassroots level has repeatedly reshaped political discourse, driving broad economic and social reform without ever waiting for a federal mandate. Restoring the American Republic does not require waiting for a new set of politicians to save us. It requires us to immediately start rebuilding the three foundational pillars of local renewal. The first pillar is the family. Long before any government existed, the family was the original institution of freedom. It is the primary place where moral education, mutual respect, and civic responsibility are actually taught. Because the family is the core unit of a republic, parents, not government bureaucrats or political activists, possess the ultimate moral and practical authority to determine their children's educational path. Right now, many public school systems push political activism and ideological compliance over actual learning. We have to replace that rigid instruction with rigorous academic excellence and independent critical thinking. Parents can sever this ideological influence by showing up. That means actively taking seats on local school boards, reviewing the curriculum, and demanding absolute transparency in every classroom. Thinkers like the economist Thomas Sowell have long pointed out that centralized education systems stifle innovation and ignore local needs. True education prepares individuals to be self-reliant, and that requires community-based, decentralized control. When parents take direct ownership of their local schools, they build the strongest possible defense against state dependency and totalitarian overreach. The second pillar is faith. The mechanics of a free republic cannot survive without a shared foundation of public virtue and morality to hold them together. The faith community can no longer afford to remain silent. Congregations and faith leaders must step up as vocal, unapologetic advocates for constitutional liberty within their own towns. This moral foundation relies on a specific ethical engine required for self-governance. Thomas Jefferson called it universal reciprocity. It is the golden rule applied directly to civic action, treating others exactly as we wish to be treated. This mutual respect ensures that individual liberty never turns into a license to harm someone else. As this principle expands outward, it weaves a web of reciprocal morality. This builds the deep community trust required for a republic to function smoothly, completely eliminating the need for heavy-handed federal policing. Replacing government coercion with faith-driven mutual respect is the only proven way to sustain a civilized, truly free society. The third pillar is freedom, and we have to define it strictly. Freedom is an inherent natural right you are born with, not a temporary privilege bestowed by politicians. The founding generation enshrined this exact principle into law when they formally separated from an overreaching, centralized empire. True freedom means you are inherently free to reach your full potential, manage your own property, and speak your mind openly. You do not have to ask a distant authority for permission to exercise these rights. But this kind of freedom has to be practiced locally, through citizens taking direct, daily responsibility for the health and direction of their own neighborhoods and institutions. This modern civic duty mirrors the earliest actions of the Minutemen, who organized locally and acted decisively to protect their communities from top-down imperial mandates. Freedom is an active, daily pursuit. Failing to exercise it in your own community inevitably leads to the quiet surrender of your natural rights. Imagine a fully realized Maga 2.0 community. Neighbors support neighbors, parents confidently dictate the curriculum, and local authorities actively, lawfully push back on federal overreach. To build this reality, we use a specific 4-step methodology: educate, advocate, organize, and mobilize. Educate and advocate mean teaching neighbors about constitutional federalism and championing local control. Organize and mobilize mean forming parallel local institutions and executing grassroots civic actions that serve your town. This bottom-up compact mirrors the earliest and most successful American experiments in self-rule by mutual consent. This methodology permanently shifts power back to the citizens. The Republic thrives when citizens reawaken the founders' vision of self-rule at the grassroots level. The battle for the future of the federal constitutional republic now unfolds in your own backyard. To master this exact blueprint for local populism, you need to read the book Maga 2.0. Read it, then immediately gather your family, friends, and neighbors to start a local Maga 2.0 club. By carrying the momentum of the Trump doctrine directly into our hometowns, we bypass Washington, D.C. entirely and restore America's greatness, one community at a time.